let's go, Fred, now to a little bit around the league quickly. Shams Charania reporting Trae Young and the Hawks are working towards a divorce, working towards parting ways. I think just based on especially how Atlanta played without Trae Young in this recent stretch this year, the writing was on the wall. It was just a matter of when and how they were going to separate. And so appears it's going to happen ahead of the deadline. Who do you have there as your most likely destinations?
Oh, well, I know Mark Stein reported Washington. I don't know who it's going to be. I'm also not 100% convinced that there's actually going to be a trade because the reality is that Atlanta is not going to want to take significant money back. They're just not in that place right now. And Trae Young is on a deal that like he could be a free agent after this year. And I could see them getting to a place where it's like, well, Atlanta wants stuff back for Trae, but another team wants stuff back for doing a favor for taking on Trae. There are a lot of guards out there, really players out there who are kind of in the Trae Young archetype right now. And I don't even mean like the on-court style, but just the guy who is really good on one way of the court, who isn't as good on the other way of the court, who makes an expensive contract and who's available, or the guy who has some sort of, very obvious flaw who's available. Anthony Davis is awesome on both ends of the court, but he's got the health history. Domantas Sabonis, Zach LaVine, Ja Morant, Zion Williamson with the health history. Like there are a lot of these guys who are out there. And I don't know about you. I haven't heard any real traction, like actual traction on any of these guys. I just haven't heard any of it. I think teams are very wary of trading for large salaries in the second apron era. And I think teams are very wary of trading something for Trae Young when he could up and leave this summer. And Trae Young specifically is like a very particular fit inside of your team, as we've seen with the Hawks this year and in other years where he can be like he was in 2021, excel and help carry you to the conference finals. And he can also kind of be the backbreaking part of your defense and, maybe command the ball too much on the offensive side, which can ruin the offensive rhythm. Like he's a very particular fit and he's a difficult mid-season ad. Like you want a training camp with Trae Young, you want a training camp with that kind of guy. If you have to build stuff around him, you don't want to just add him to the mix. He's not like OG Anunoby where he's just like fit him in with anybody and he's right. The same guy going to play the same way and be good to go. So I don't know. I'm sure I know Shams's report was 100% correct. I don't know if it's actually going to happen. It might. I could just see it not happening. My intuitions keep saying to me that it might not.
Yeah, it's definitely a tricky deal to make. I keep an eye on Minnesota just because they were very aggressive on KD. It seems like they're not scared to take KD is obviously not Trae Young, but take a swing where there's risk involved, and they're looking at the point guard position and trying to figure that out. I look there. I look also. It's a strange one, maybe, but Portland. You look at their point guard position. I know they've been kind of fishing around, just doing intel work on bolstering that position. Is that the answer? I don't know. I have no idea. But I think also Miami, just in terms of not being afraid to be in the water for those significant players that could become available. Obviously, Giannis, that's, Miami would be one of the destinations that I think has a good shot there if that ever came to fruition. But I think big name hunting, I think they're always going to be in the mix. But for all the reasons you said, it could end up here with Trae Young still on the Hawks after the trade deadline, and then they figure it out afterwards. But nonetheless, a couple quick Knick things. Nothing really significant. I don't think has changed over the past couple of weeks. I think still open to moving Yabusele. I'd be, I guess, a little bit surprised if that didn't happen, given where things sit with the Knicks and their biggest free agent signing of the offseason. And then, what are you looking to get back? Are you trying to get a backup point guard? Are you looking for a wing? I think that in part will be based on how they're playing. Again, the 3 weeks leading up to the deadline. There's an for a backup point guard. Not much has changed, though, at least from what I'm hearing. Fred, how about you? You hear anything league-wide or Knicks specific that is of interest?
Yeah, same place. I think they've looked at a backup point guard. I think they've looked at a backup wing. I know they've kind of called around and checked in just to see the market on bigs. Also, if they're going to be training Yabusele, they have definitely called around and tried to gauge the market on Yabusele. The problem is that Yabusele has a player option for next year, and there have been a lot of teams who have looked at that player option and been like, well, we need to take picks back in order to take on this player option for next year that right now is looking very likely that he's going to pick up with the way that he's playing. And teams don't, it's not attractive. So now all of a sudden, in order to get somebody back for Yabusele, you got to include, Knicks have a bunch of second round picks, but they don't really have that many. They don't have real firsts that they can give. The Wizards one that they have is not going to convey. It's going to be 2 seconds, 2 good seconds, but 2 seconds. And they can give a first round swap. But if it's like Yabusele, you got to add, however many second round picks just to get off of the contract. Then you also have to add in second round picks in order to acquire whatever player that you're acquiring. And it becomes a little more difficult. So they could totally trade Yabusele. They're also incredibly close to the hard cap right now, and it would be difficult, not impossible at all, but just a little challenging for them to make like a 2-for-1 trade or something like that, where they're sending out 2, bringing back 1, sending out 3, bringing back 2, because of these other cap eccentricities that are going to make you fall asleep in the middle of your own show. So it's the Yabusele market is it's not booming. If they trade him, it's in order to use his salary to bring in another player, to bring in another salary. That's really what it'll come down to. It's not somebody being like, let's go out and take we think this guy's being misused after being really good for Philly last year. Like I've spoken to a number of teams around the league, and everybody has said the exact same thing to me on it.
Yeah, you hit it on the head with the player option being a complicating factor in any deal. I'll just go back to the offseason. I mean, I know Denver was right there with the Knicks on Guerschon Yabusele in terms of his free agent decision. Obviously, they're dealing with Nikola Jokic being out. Their depth looked very good against Philadelphia last night, so maybe they're sitting pat and they don't look to do anything. I just note that because there was real interest there in the summer. So maybe something ends up happening there. But I do think that things are more than likely to end up with Yabusele elsewhere, and the Knicks getting back what they can in that move.